where the essay shaped, thought find depth, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. One of his advocacy being a therapist as well as a writer with a phenomenal memory, none other than Mr. Frank Healy.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here.
Welcome, Mr. Frank on Abstract Essay. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Okay, well, I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I've also written more than 20 books. And my memory, I have what's called hyperthymesia. The more popular term is superior autobiographical memory. I remember every day of my life since I was not quite 6 years old, and I'm now 65, so that's 59, almost 60 years worth of daily memories. And what that includes is for each day since Monday, February 28th, 1966, I remember what day of the week it was, the weather where I was, if there was any big news events, and also personal events. And so the reason I became a therapist and a writer is because having all those memories, I also remember the emotions attached to them. So, like, I remember how I felt. Like, sure, I remember all the good times. Every day on vacation, fun dates before I got married, and good times with my wife and friends and family. But I also can remember bad days at work and, days, romantic breakups in the past, and a lot of the negative stuff too. So I got interested in being a therapist because and studying psychology because since I'm not going to forget any of the memories or the episodes, would at least be able to let go of the feelings that I had from the bad memories so that when they crop up, still feel okay. And as far as my overall memory, one way to improve your memory is to make connections between things. Like, say if you have a shopping list and you're going out to buy a watermelon and also a lounge chair. Imagine someone sitting in a watermelon like it's a lounge chair, so you'll remember both things. So, one of my books that's not on there, but it's on Amazon, is Memory Brain Exercises. At first, we get into your predominant way that you remember things, whether you're more a visual learner, an auditory learner, or a kinesthetic learner. And then there's exercises for each type. There's a test for that. See what your main learning style is. Now, a lot of the publications you have up there, I've written books on how to heal your past. It's a self-help trilogy, Heal Your Memory series. What it is it's for each of the three books I interviewed in that particular series. We'll get to the ones that are being displayed in a minute. But for the Heal Your Memory series, Heal Your Memories, Change Your Life, and two others, I interviewed 12 to 15 people who had had some real trauma and real bad things in their lives, but are now happy and thriving. It includes exercises to help you heal the bad memories from the past and the emotional effects you have that have on you. And I just continued writing. So this year, I came out with Happy Every Day that you'll see on the right side. And that's a book about how you can be happy on your everyday life and not just on weekends, holidays, vacations, but happy. And it involves a lot of changing your thoughts to more positive thoughts, as well as having a good support system and doing work that you like and or if you're a young person, still a student, studying for what you like. And then, so then Stoicism for resilience is Stoic philosophy is all about controlling your emotions. And some people think that's about like being a walking robot, but that's not really it. Stoicism for resilience is about how to control your emotions so that you don't let them control you for and that can create a happier, more relaxed life. And then my most recent publication, Somatic Therapy for Beginners, actually, the workbook for that just came out yesterday because there's a workbook with it. But in somatic therapy is all about how you can move your body and figure out where the emotional effects from past memories are stored in your body. And maybe when you had a bad experience, like being molested, you couldn't move your body right at that time, but now you can move it and you can free yourself from a lot of tension that's still held in your body. Now, I know I've just said a whole lot.
And thank you so much, Mr. Frank, for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So let's start with the fundamental misconception. Many people think of memory as a video camera faithfully recording events. How is memory actually formed and stored, and why is this reconstructive nature a key to understanding how to improve it?
Well, memory is formed by, it's actually a lot of processes that go on. Part of it is we tend to remember events that have a high emotional significance for us, like whether it's a good memory, like a graduation, wedding, or a bad memory, like being fired from a job or being bullied. Those are the memories we tend to remember for autobiographically. Now, as far as eidetic memory, memorizing facts and information, well, holding on to the thought is good because there's short sensory and then there's memory, which is simply when you first encounter information. Then short term memory, if you repeat the information a few times and you hold on the thought long enough, it goes into long term memory. But there's an even better way to, what I described a few minutes ago is even a better way to get a factor information into long term memory. Create an imaginative situation about it. Like a lot of time, I'll give you an everyday example. Many people have trouble remembering the names of people they just met. And the reason for that is it's not that they forgot, it's that they didn't remember in the first place. So, when you're meeting somebody, you might be thinking about, oh, how do I look? How am I coming across? And so, when they say their name, you have all these thoughts going up, distractions in your head. So, you don't actually hear the name. So, the best thing to do for that is, and don't tell the person you're doing this, but pick some facial feature they have and create a picture that has to do with their name. Like you might look at a facial feature of mine and imagine a hot dog for Frank, and uh, and it's growing heel at the bottom, like the heel of your foot, and maybe a whole lot of feet. So it would be Frank. He's real heely. Yeah.
Interesting, Mr. Frank. And how often hear about working memory and long-term memory? What is the practical difference for someone trying to remember a name versus learning a new skill?
Well, a lot of the working memory is about do learning the motions to do a new task at work, or maybe you're in a adult evening school or a children's Saturday morning school where you're learning a new skill such as computers or cooking. And working, I mean, many people need to practice it a few times, and it also helps you practice the new skill. And when you're finished doing that, keep on visualizing it in your head, doing the different steps, and that'll help it stick more. Because some people pick up on procedures and tasks very easily. Others have more trouble with that. So if you have trouble with it, practice, but also visualize it a few times doing the task or the skill. And
The,
I'll give you an example of that. A few years ago, my step grandson and a couple other teenage boys that he knew came over to help me start gardening on an April afternoon, and I had to show them that. I mean, I noticed they were planting the flowers with barely any soil on the roots, and so I had to show them how to, dig a hole with a spade and then mix up the miracle grow with the soil, and then make sure it's compact, and then put some soil underneath where you're going to plant it, and then plant it on top of some loose soil so the roots can grow, and then cover it up till it's ground level again, but the root and part of the stem is under the ground. And they did better after I showed it to them. And some people with facts and information, I make so many associations with different things. Like so usually when I learn new information, I can associate it in some way with old information. And that's the best way. Like if you're taking a college course, once you get the background in the first couple of lessons, then you build on that.
Interesting, Mr. Frank. So, what is the single biggest biological or psychological bottleneck that prevents the most people from forming strong, lasting memories, and how can we overcome it?
Well, sometimes it's interesting if someone had a lot of trauma and scary things in their childhood, they can respond in one of two ways. Many of them suppress them. Like, for instance, if you were a victim of incest or mom and dad were getting drunk and fighting a lot. And I didn't have that in my life, but a lot of times, you can people will either suppress it and wonder why, and then bad memory generalizes to other things, or somebody could go the other extreme where they start remembering every detail of something, figuring if they just know what's going on all the time, somehow they'll survive and overcome bad things. So that's the psychological element there. And I often told when I used to teach psychology in college, I would tell the students when you sit down to study or when you sit down at the beginning of class, take a couple slow, deep breaths and say to yourself, now for this hour or two, however long you're going to be studying or in class, all I'm going to focus on is the material. I'm not going to think about my weekend plans or worry about what kind of a grade I'm getting in this. Just focus on learning the material. And then I'll get you in a relaxed way because you actually learn more when you're relaxed than if you're uptight.
Mr. Frank, tell us, beyond aging, what are the most surprising modern day enemies of a good memory that people may not be aware of?
Well, I think as I've said before about using your imagination to help remember things too. And part of it can be genetic, but since the 90s decade of the brain research, which has continued on up to today, lots of brain research going on. they've discovered neuroplasticity, where the brain is a lot more flexible than they once thought. So if you don't have a good memory, you can work at it and learn the skills, and the brain will be flexible enough so that you develop more neuron and synaptic connections for to memorize the material. And so a poor memory can be developed. In fact, they've even discovered that people who've had brain injuries can still learn because the brain's good at overcompensating. I
Hmm.
mean, I'll give you examples. A couple times I taught memory skills in adult evening schools, and one student was a young lady who'd been brain injured in a car accident, and another student was an older woman who had suffered asphyxiation when she went into her attic on a 100-degree day outside. So it was about 120 in her attic, and she passed out. So, and I was even able to teach them new ways to remember things. So the brain is quite flexible that way.
Interesting, Mr. Frank. And as an author, what are your short-term and long-term goals, as well as a therapies?
Well, as far as my short-term goals for the new year are to write three or four more books. I'm planning on writing a book on dialectical behavioral therapy, which is a type of therapy. I run a group of it at work. It combines learning to tolerate distress, learning to regulate your emotions, and learning mindfulness and meditation, and learning interpersonal, like people skills. And so I plan to write a book on that, and I plan to write a book on anxiety, how to how to handle anxiety and depression, and to do better with that. And yes, my long-term goals. Well, there's a couple things that I've been doing that I'm not really allowed to reveal yet until I get permission. But I'll just say that I've been involved in some university research on my memory. But when when I'm permitted, I might call you back to be on again and talk about that.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Frank, and looking forward for more success. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be an author as well as therapists like you?
Well, for therapists, it's a lot easier. Well, I wouldn't say it's easy. I mean, it's just hard and long. But get a master's degree and then study for most licensures. Like I'm licensed professional counselor, and you have to take a test for that. But I was grandfathered in. In fact, I was the last person in New Jersey grandfathered in 1999. Of course, not that, I mean, taking a test would have been okay for me too. It's a lot of information about the field, and and gets a lot of you can get supervised hours on a job. You might start a job working in a partial hospital or a day program, or where you can get supervised hours, and eventually you get your license and can practice. And as far as an author, there are plenty of training programs out there. Like I started out wanting to write a book about how I met, what it was like living with my memory. So I wrote a book on that and sent it to the University of California, where I was researched back in 2011. And I've since written a revised edition called Who Could Forget? And then I started getting involved in author groups and learn how to publish on Amazon and how to study keywords and topics so that you can reach more of an audience online. And if you have the time and are willing to travel, you could have book fairs, book signings. I did a few of those when I first started out as a writer. Where I'd have copies of my books, and I'd sell them at the book signings, and I'd autograph and chat with the customers. Because
Good.
people get real excited about that. Sure.
Yes, and thank you for that advice, Mr. Frank. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Well, when I was in my 30s, I was, and I still have an interest in self help. Like I'm always looking for ways to do things better. And I was inspired by Tony Robbins and some of his books about surrounding yourself with the right people and developing an I can attitude. And so his Awaken the Giant Within is was a big influence on me. And so Happy Every Day was partly inspired by the Kaufmans up at the Option Institute in Massachusetts. I'd been to some of their seminars. They teach adults how to be happier. And they also do work with autistic kids because they had an autistic son back in the 70s and they created their own program. And he came out of it and is now a Brown graduate and he helps them with their stuff. So So those were my big influences back in my 30s. And
Thank you for those recommended books, Mr. Frank. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in its fourth season, as well as my love letters, movie 101 review, and music 101, and my baby podcast, Law 101, Mental Health 101, and Bible Verses 101, Science 101, and Sex 101 in each second season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Frank, finally, if you could give one single most impactful piece of advice to anyone who wants to start improving their memory today, what would it be?
well, I think I would say that what to never give up. Don't put any ceiling or cap on what you might be able to do if you worked at it. Yeah, like never give up, never give up, a quote from Winston Churchill. And it was also my favorite line in any movie was in the movie Apollo 13, where Commander Kratz down in Mission Control, played by Ed Harris, said, "Failure is not an option." So you want
Wow.
to improve your memory or improve your life, you really can with the right tools, which can be found in my books. And so and there's a lot of different ways to put that. Believe in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it might sound cliche, but your attitude and your beliefs in what you can do really do make a difference. Been proven scientifically, even with brain research.
Mr. Frank Healy, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your books, your advocacy, or whatever projects that they're doing right now?
Yes, well, you can go to my website, see what I'm doing and order the books, or you can go to my Amazon page and order any of the books. And part of my future plans include creating some online courses too, like creating an online memory course and an online how to heal your memories course. So there's a lot of directions I can go with that. And so
Yes.
go to my, you mentioned phenomenal memory. That used to be the name of my website, but as you can see in the upper left hand corner, now it's Healy's Healing.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Frank Healy because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering books like this to come, and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Mr. Frank, thank you so much for your time.
Yes, it was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
More to come, people. See you soon.